meeting will come to order. We'll have roll call.
Harris,
Yes.
Knapper,
Here.
Meyer,
Here.
Reisig,
Here.
Blue,
Here.
Let me back up an item for public information. A copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is posted in the back of the meeting room on the east wall, if anyone needs to read that. Our next item is Pledge of Allegiance, if you would stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, certainly want to say welcome to everyone that's here this evening. We appreciate you being here. Want to remind all that this meeting is being recorded to be broadcast at a later date. I also want to remind everyone that whoever wants to speak, you need to come forward when you're recognized, state your name for the record, and spell your name, which will assist the county clerk with her minutes. Remember, there's no swearing or other inappropriate language. We all need to check our cell phones, try and make sure they're shut off or on silent. Let me also remind the commissioners that we need to speak directly into our microphones, speak clearly and loud, so that you can be heard on the recording. Normally, we plan to take a short break in the middle of the agenda, but quite honestly, ours might be short enough tonight that we may not have to. It's shorter than normal. But if we feel we need to, we might take a recess later. I believe that's it. So the next item is approval of the agenda and or consider modification.
and I do have an item to remove.
Okay?
Do you have our little voting things?
Oh, shoot.
Oh yeah, we're gonna need our,
I'm sorry, guys. Good save. So your first general agenda item, I'll need to remove.
the emergency manager,
Yes.
okay?
You might need this.
Yeah, it looks that way.
All right, so we have one, change to consider. Any other comments on the agenda? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the agenda with the one removal of the first item, the emergency manager.
All right,
I'll second that.
so we have a motion and a second. We'll go ahead and vote.
You have 5 yeses.
All right, motion's carried. Want to remind everyone, the board reserves the right to enter into a closed session if deemed necessary. I don't believe we have any executive sessions planned for tonight, but we always reserve the right to go into one if we see that we need to. The next item is the consent agenda, and these items are proposed for one action unless someone would like to consider one separately. Is there anyone that would like to pull one out for any reason? All right, if not, entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Okay,
I'll second.
have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Let's go ahead and vote.
You have 5 yeses.
Okay, motion's carried. We'll go on to the next item, which is Road and Bridge. Steve Baird, Highway Superintendent, to discuss and consider action regarding right-of-way parking.
Did we come out?
looks like Troy's gonna tag team with him a little bit. All right.
Okay, so we have had some issues with people parking vehicles along the county roads, mainly the asphalt roads. And one area, I guess in particular, is attached to the sheets there I gave you that we've had several problems with. I've reached out to them several times about removing this stuff from the right of way. With no results. I've reached out to the sheriff's office a couple times. This last time we reached out there again because of complaints from citizens driving by about it. Apparently, through the sheriff's department's communication with the county attorney, it doesn't sound like there's much they can do unless the board approves the state statute 39-18-16, which I put it in front of you there in your papers, showing their support for that statute. Nobody knows if that's ever been passed before this board. So I guess we're here to see what the board's thoughts are or opinion is of the statute and enforcing this. So
what you're saying is you need board approval to enforce a state statute?
that's what I understand from the county attorney. And
If you read into the statute, it says the board has to pass approval. It says they can then post, no parking signs on county right of ways, and at that point we can enforce. If they refuse to remove the property, then we can at least cite them.
So the approval is to post the sign, it's not to enforce the statute, correct?
Right, but it has to be posted.
Okay, I got you.
Mr. Kelly?
Steve asked me to look at this too. The statute says the board may prohibit. So it isn't, there isn't a state statute that says you can't park on county roads, but the board may prohibit that. And I recommend that you do a resolution, because I assume the county attorney would need to say the board took this action, and simple, the minutes of the meeting may not be good enough for the county judge. So if you do a resolution at the next meeting, then the county attorney can have a certified copy of the resolution and say, here's what they did.
So you're suggesting it needs to be a written resolution that
Yes.
we would approve?
Yes,
So that, yeah, and then they would have it when they go to court? and-
correct.
I see.
Well, I think
Okay.
this is a good idea, because I know in a lot of smaller communities where they're trying to clean up their communities, this is one of the major problems. I know in particular one community that, on both sides of their town, they have this problem with stuff parked right in the right of way, and I know they've made efforts to try to clean it up, but they don't get anywhere because of not being able to enforce it, so I think it's a great idea.
it's also a liability for the county too, by allowing it to be on the right of way. So if somebody was to run off the road there, hit one of their vehicles of there, the county is gonna get.
Doesn't give anywhere to plow
Being,
snow.
well,
Sure.
we try to keep our right of ways clear. It's our maintenance area, so to speak, areas to pile snow, whatever it may be.
How
So,
far is the right of way off the highway?
It depends on the road, normally 33 feet from the center of the road. Some
33 feet
vary
from the
though.
center of the road.
Yep, from the center of the road.
But some vary, don't they?
Yeah, they do vary, especially the paved roads. Some of
So
our
these
paved roads are
pictures that
wider.
you furnished,
Yes,
I'm assuming the trailer and all the other stuff are on county right of way
Yes.
now?
yes.
Okay.
That is on Carter Canyon Road.
So when you, post that, would you be then posting those signs right on the line, do you think, or just simply posting it?
Probably just posting them, I think, on the, maybe like on, just as you turn onto each paved county road or something, no parking.
I notice
Along
the
right of
state,
way or something.
always has those little pieces of concrete or whatever marking their right of way.
Right.
We're not
Right.
gonna go to that extent.
We don't really have that, no.
Don't plan to do that at
No,
this point.
so, I think in that area, I think we have in the past put some stakes out there. I believe I had, Scott Bossy go out there and survey it and put some stakes where the right of way was, and, they just got tore
They
out.
were
and
ignored, huh?
Parked
Yeah.
over, pretty much, so.
Okay.
Does this give you a little variance, so if your vehicle breaks down, that you've got so many hours to get that vehicle out of there before?
Yeah, this isn't about a broke down vehicle.
that's what I'm wondering.
We know the difference when one's been broke down and sitting there or stuck in a snowstorm or something. We don't do it, these are, I'm gonna call them
Well,
nuisance
just so it
areas,
doesn't
if you
get
wanna
missed
call it
through.
that.
Chronic, yeah. Where
Yeah.
they're there for
Assuming these
many
people have been
days.
Notified that
Yes,
they're in the right of way, they just ignore the
yes,
notifications.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
So do we need to take any action tonight to say prepare the resolution, or what do you?
It's not necessary. If you say, put a resolution together for us for the next meeting, that would be enough.
Okay. Does commissioners all agree with this thought?
I'd like it to kinda say that, to keep those roadways clear for, county equipment. For county,
Yeah.
keep our
Okay.
county
Okay,
roads
maintenance,
For county
okay.
maintenance, and not
just
And,
necessarily,
and we don't have to say why other than the state statute.
Yeah, we're gonna just prohibit parking, on county right of way. And that way, we don't have to pick this road or that road unless you wanna say paved roads or something,
No.
but you can think about we can talk about what goes in the resolution.
We really don't need it on any of our roads, but the paved roads are the ones that are the, more of the issue, so, I mean,
But if you started, we need the resolution to cover all roads, in my opinion, in that you don't know when or where the problem's gonna crop up.
correct.
So let's write the statute or the law or the resolution to cover them, any future problems as well.
And I'll get it on the agenda for December 2nd.
Yeah, for next meeting.
According to the state statute, we can only enforce this where we erect signs. That's my interpretation. So we'll need to, unless we're gonna put a sign on every road, we do need to kinda pick where we're gonna do that. But Steve
Right.
made the comment, wherever you turn onto a paved county road, there would be a sign.
Right.
that's gonna get kinda expensive doing that, isn't it?
I guess I haven't priced how much to make a no parking sign from here to, whatever on the right of way, but
And he can kinda do it as
we
needed.
can, right, we can do it as
Right
needed.
now it's needed,
Not
yeah.
every road at this point needs it, there's just a few around, and we can tackle them as they come, but,
Right.
if the problem does arise, and if we reach out to the people and they go move it,
Right.
then, it's more for the, I guess, the uncooperating,
Right, you're gonna have a lawful way to deal with it.
right, a lawful way to deal with
I'm
it.
assuming you would start on your problem areas,
Correct,
Right.
correct,
stick them in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
There's no reason to put a sign out if there's
right,
not an issue.
right.
Right. Okay, so does that give everybody direction? Looked to me like we were in consensus up here.
But we
Okay.
have
Okay.
discussed and considered, so we could vote on it if we wanted
He wants to prepare a written resolution.
to first.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's good. All right,
okay,
thanks for
thank you.
bringing it to us. All right, we'll go on to the next item. We'll go to the general agenda items. As we said, the first item was removed from the agenda. So we'll go to receive the UNL programming update. Gary Stone, Nebraska Extension Water and Integrated Cropping Systems Educator. Gary, thanks for being here.
Stone, GaryStone. So, thank you for having me here today. Wanted to give you an update on the programming that I do, mostly on the ag and water side for the Panhandle. I am located out at the Panhandle Research and Extension Center. I cover the whole Panhandle for these areas. We do have two other, water and cropping educators. One is located out of Box Butte County, and the other is located out of Sydney. However, the one at Sydney, she retired here about a year ago, and as we speak right now, we are in the process of interviewing a candidate down there, and hopefully they will make him an offer, and he will take it, and then that'll take a lot of load off my shoulders coming on this next season.
Sure.
So with that, I got a short PowerPoint, 12 slides, show you what I've been doing. I've also provided you with a handout of a general summary of what I do. And then on the back side of that sheet, there are some web links if you're more interested in going to some of the articles I've written that I'm pretty proud of. So the one thing I do every week during the growing season with Dr. Shin Chow, our water specialist, I calculate a weekly estimated crop water use for the Panhandle crops using 3 of the weather stations across the Panhandle. I do this so that the growers can see how much water their crops have used the previous week, so that then they can figure out how much water that they would need to apply to their crops to keep them growing well. Some growers want to use an ET gauge, such as shown here in this slide, for a more localized reading of their ET, And then I also have other growers that wanna use soil moisture sensors to go along with the ET gauge to more accurately determine how much water they need to apply. The soil water sensors would tell them how much soil moisture is in the profile, and then so that they don't overwater or underwater their crops. So one of the other things that we do quite a bit, I do this with the other educator out of Box Butte County, is the on-farm research network that we have. We do this based on the questions that the growers have. You know, what if I do this? So some of the things we've done just recently this year is black-eyed peas, and they're not really a pea, they are a bean. They're just called black-eyed peas. We've done a lot of work on dry bean. Most of that has been grant funded by the Dry Bean Commission. That photo there is what black-eyed peas look like in the field. And not all of our research projects go the way we want. So we had 3 down at Binkelman this year. And you might say, well, if you're in the Panhandle, what are you doing down there? Well, the commission knew that we had a new educator based down there, and they wanted to get her on board with the on-farm projects that we do. So we went down there to help her out with some, 3 fields with black-eyed peas. One field worked real well. It was a dry land field, had real good numbers, data that we got off of it. The other 2 look like this. That is a black-eyed pea field, or pea field. It does have Palmer amaranth in it, which is a native weed to this country. However, it's the #1 weed in the state that's being a problem. And as you can see, the grower said he did harvest that. We did not get down there to see how it went, but you can see he actually had that circle hand harvested twice, or hand weeded twice. And he still had that much of a weed problem. So we do have that weed here in the Panhandle. Dr. Nevin Lawrence, our weed specialist out at the center, has been working on it. He has, with the help of growers and sugar beet company, got a herbicide labeled for sugar beets. He's in the process of getting one labeled for dry beans, because they're very limited on the products that we can use to manage this weed. Other things I do, some of the articles I've written, the last 2 this year on siphon tubes. If any of you have been on the farm and have set those, I always thought that was interesting. Center pivots. The one thing about those 2 topics, it was people native of this state that came up with those. Not so much the siphon tubes, but he developed the tube, got it set up to where he could make them and then sell them. Center pivots was actually developed in this state, and it's one of the leading industries in this state for us. Some of the other water articles I've written, the river drainages here in the state, the North Platte River itself, and Water Law 101, which I really like, and the tunnel and canal breach, and that's an ongoing topic. We're not finished with that one yet. So some of the meetings and events that I've taken part in or put on, the number after that is the number of attendees. The private pesticide training, chemigation training, that was all totaled up 435 across the Panhandle. We expect that number to double this year. Our field days out at the center, we had one for the growers and we had one for the area FFA students. We had 352 people attend those. Safety day, that was mostly an in-house safety training for international students that come here to learn. And they need to know a little bit about our ag, about safety around equipment, the power takeoff, weather, you name it, worker protection standards, which they need to know about. And then the WET program. It's not so much 4-H, but ESU 13 puts this on every year. I and another 4-H assistant take part in this. We talk about crop water use, where our water comes from, and then the fun part of it is I show them how to set a siphon tube, or at least try to. So it gets pretty wet and it gets a lot of fun. pat myself on the back. I was very surprised to receive an award from the Soil and Water Conservation Society this year. I didn't expect that. They held their annual state meeting out here at the center, out at the western part of the state, and they gave me that award. We do give out awards. We give out the Outstanding Service to Panhandle Ag. The Michael Relka, I don't know, she's a Western sugar field rep. People think very highly of her. Steve, Trent, and Carl Benzel, they're out of Box Butte County. They've worked with us on a lot of projects. We're very proud that they were able to get that award this year. And then I'm part of a $1.1 million grant from the USDA on sugar beet studies and nitrogen. So we'll be starting that in 2025. Another thing we did, working with a chemical company that has this herbicide for cheatgrass. And it's one application should last 3 to 4 years is what they claim. And you can see on the left-hand side of the picture, that's where it's been treated. And then on the right-hand side, you can see what the cheatgrass would be like if it hadn't been treated. So the nice thing about this is, yes, you apply it once, it lasts 3 to 4 years. It gives your native grasses and native plants a chance to come back if they don't overgraze it. It does cost about 60, 70 bucks an acre, but we've had a number of growers go out and they figure, you know, if they can get so many more pounds of beef per acre off of that, it does pay for itself.
Charlie might have a question.
Yes,
Is that Rejuvra?
yes.
Is it safe to use on Kentucky bluegrass? with
It is
the
not
cheaper-
labeled for that.
Okay.
It's only
And
labeled
what
for
about,
orange pasture.
on buffalo grass?
It is not, I'd have to check the label on that one. But I would think if it's rangeland, it probably would be safe. Generally, it's safe pretty much on all the grasses.
I always
How-
thought the name cheatgrass was maybe a slang term, but that's what you call it then.
Cheatgrass, downy brome.
Yeah.
The picture on the left, that is Japanese brome up there in Box Butte County.
I see.
The one on the right is down there by Mom's outcrop there on Steel Road. That is cheatgrass, downy brome.
Sure.
So
That's the
just
stuff that gets stuck in your socks and all that stuff.
And it's, when it dries, it's like dry gasoline in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
And the Prebee group, I know they're trying to get a grant to spray a lot of the acres that were burned, because that's gonna come back with cheatgrass. And if they can do that, that'll, you know, get the native grasses to come back and won't be as much as a fire hazard.
Good.
So I do take part in a couple of tour groups. So the Nebraska Lead Group of 42, they had 25 folks come out. We always talk about water in the valley, a little bit about water law across the state. We take them out to the point there and they take a group shot in front of the lighthouse. And then the UNL has what they call the Rhodes Scholar Tour. And they do that about every other year. What that's for the new hires across UNL. They put them on a bus for a week's tour across the state to show them the state, meet the people, and one of the stops is out at the center.
Yeah.
So we always take part in that. And with that, I'll entertain any questions.
I know you've done studies comparing gravity irrigation compared to pivot. Cost-wise, pivot is probably cheaper in the long run, but my neighbor this year decided to experiment and go back to gravity irrigation on one of his cornfields, and his yield was double what it was on the pivot field. So is that kind of unusual?
I wouldn't say it's unusual. I would say that he probably didn't manage his water properly with the pivot, probably didn't put on enough water. So that, again, that's where the soil moisture sensors would come in handy, and, you know, put some of those out there and monitor that soil water profile. And then, because yes, if you gravity water, you're definitely going to fill the profile and actually use too much water, especially on the head end. Other questions?
You had something about the tunnel up in Wyoming?
Yes.
What's progress on that?
I knew you were somebody was gonna ask that. So, I contacted GID here 2 weeks ago and, spoke with them. It's at a standstill.
That's the
When-
last information I had too.
When, we held the Yonce Water Conference, a year ago in April, they projected the cost went from around 50 million to 84 million. And the standstill is that the engineering firm that will do the work will not do the work until they know the money's in the bank. So, I do not know what Nebraska's going to do, if they're doing anything to come up with the money. I don't know if our legislators out of Washington are doing anything, or if they're even aware of the situation, and the same holds true in Wyoming. I don't know what they're gonna do, so everything's on hold until the money comes up, and then they'll start work. I'd hope that they would start work this fall, but looks like we're held off for another year.
Well, you know, for years, GID and Gearing, they've, only delivered a foot to the 100. And the north side of the river, Pathfinder, Farmers Irrigation delivers a foot to the 80. And we're taxing both sides the same, and the production isn't the same. I mean, they're not getting the same production out of that land. And I'm just wondering if there's anything the state can do to help those farmers on the south side where they're losing, 2/10 of a foot to an 80 on the irrigation, if there's anything we can do to compensate them on their taxes.
I cannot answer that. I don't know.
Be a good one for you to check into.
I do know that, they're limited on how much water they can take out of the river. I do know they're limited on how much water the ditch can carry, versus the north side. The soil types are much different. So, I just can't answer that question.
That's
for
true,
you.
there's some truth in that as well, so.
So. Other questions? Good questions.
The major work there on that, the Gearing Fort Laramie tunnel is, the fact that the tunnel needs to be rebuilt, is that right?
Both tunnels 1 and 2 need to be
Both.
replaced.
Replaced.
And what they had proposed was they would go in and bore out the old tunnel. It had a diameter of 14 feet. They would bore it out to 16 feet and then put in a new tunnel to that size so that it could take more water could become available. And if there's another rainstorm or something like that.
Would deal with it.
And I don't know, at the time, they were thinking they would only do 1 tunnel per year. Find one contractor to do the work for both tunnels, but just 1 tunnel a year, so that they would concentrate on 1 tunnel, get it done, and not, if they tried to do 2 and have a problem, not be able to get water down through the system.
Is it, is it serviceable now?
Yes, it is.
Until it's repaired?
It is
Repaired or
serviceable.
replaced, I guess?
It's repaired, but they need to put in a whole brand new system.
But it was just a Band-Aid that really,
Yes. And they did that since 2019, 2020, so
Right.
it's been operational. But when it did go down, it affected 107,000 acres, essentially the whole south side of the North Platte River.
Right.
I ran the dirt crew that built all that back for the ditch company. The ditch companies hired me to run all the crews. We just brought all the ditch companies together and brought in a couple of contractors. We had that back in operation, or had
Oh,
the
yeah.
canal back in 31 days.
That was amazing. Okay, well, if not,
All right.
I thank you.
Thanks, appreciate it. Okay, we'll go on to the next item, which is personnel board items. Ms. Lisa, you're gonna cover those, I'm assuming? All right,
Thank you, Gary.
Give me a moment to get signed off.
okay.
Do you have something coming to? Nope, just waiting for it to pop in the record. We're good. I think we have 4 policies to discuss. And one is just kind of a for your informational or addition. You have them in front of you. You do, I can start reading while this is squirreling around, so, okay, first policy is the workers' compensation maximum amount of recovery time. This is a new policy. And it would be numbered 7603.4 in the personnel policy. Okay, and I'm just gonna read it through, cause like I said, this is new. Sorry, I just looking at it and something was kinda quizzical to me. Okay, the maximum amount of recovery time, including any combination of injury leave and modified duty work, should not exceed 12 consecutive calendar months from the date of injury. If the employee has not yet returned to full duty work within 12 months from the date of injury, the employee's treating physician will be contacted by Scotts Bluff County or the workers' compensation representative to determine if the employee can perform the essential functions of their job description. If the employee's treating physician states that the employee cannot perform the essential functions of the job description, the employee may be separated from employment or considered for another county position. Prior to the end of the 12-month period, if the employee provides medical documentation indicating a strong likelihood that the employee may return to full duty within a reasonable time period, the HR office and department head may extend the recovery time depending on business needs and pursuant to the Americans with Disability Act or Family Medical Leave Act. Likewise, if the employee is able to perform the essential functions for their position with reasonable accommodations, the department will make reasonable efforts to accommodate the employee when possible. This came forward as we're working through a work comp situation, and our work comp person that we work with at NERMA was telling us that we have people that sometimes take a long time to recover. They get an injury and they take a while to get back up to speed, but sometimes if they can't recover, are we required to hold their position like it was for until they retire? This kinda gives us an end time. After a year, if we find out the person's not gonna be able to do the job they originally had, we can either look for another position or, like it says, separate. At that point, work comp would take them potentially to like a vocational rehab program to help them rehab to another career if necessary. So it isn't like we're just abandoning them, but they would take steps to hopefully give them another opportunity to continue to make them a gainful employee in a different way.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
When an employee is in a workman comp situation, how often do you contact the doctor or have the employee contact the doctor to evaluate what they can do?
Depends on situation and what the doctor, brings up. We
Is that-
should be keeping in
I know
contact
when
with
I
the
worked
people.
with federal government, after about a week or so, we would send the employee to their doctor with a job description that we created that would work within the current limitations and send that with them to the doctor. But 9 times out of 10, the doctor would listen to the employee and not approve that. So it was a cat and mouse game with some employees. And so it was a continual, every time we created a job that would meet their limitations, they'd go to their doctor as we required, but the doctor would side with the patient and say, no, they can't do that. And so it was just a cat and mouse game.
That would be frustrating to deal
Yeah.
with. We hope that your person's forthright with you and working with you to try to
So
give back to.
what safeguards does the county have in that event?
We follow the guidelines of our work comp carrier,
What,
and
And
they do most of the contact with the
That's
physicians.
what I was gonna say. Our work comp carrier would be the ones making those contacts typically, and normally we wouldn't have to do that.
Lisa, does work comp have any kind of guideline like what you're trying to implement here with how many months that they can be off work? Is there anything that work comp has as a standard?
As far as,
Basically what you're doing here.
yeah, basically what we're doing was
Is that what their
suggested-
standard is now? So you're duplicating that?
Oh, well, this is what was recommended. We don't have standard currently. Is that what you're asking me?
Mhm.
I don't have one, and this is some, the work comp person had suggested, you might wanna have this in your policy to
Are-
safeguard so we can move forward, cause you can only keep a position open for so long, and it's already hampering your employee, cause you aren't hiring more people technically, but you're working short. We have the positions for a reason, right? I mean, and we expect them to be all able to do the job. And you wanna work with your people as long as you can, but at some point, maybe it's time to say, here's another opportunity.
And this again was recommended by NERMA, who is our work comp carrier. And they also said that the city of Lincoln was using this,
Our-
or a form of this same,
One of our-
resolution.
One of our two work comp people that we work with routinely came from City of Lincoln and had said, hey, they instituted a policy there. So we went and looked it up and kinda added our little, we didn't add much to it other than what you see in red, so.
And so, really, I think what this does is it helps us as an employer, which is a
It probably wouldn't be.
good thing for us,
Yeah.
which we normally, again, don't always get some of this stuff coming from Personnel Board. And they are on board with this and recommending that we approve it, so
The red part is what the Personnel Board had recommended or considered for another county position. I mean, that's a fair, if we got another place we could put them, we certainly could do that.
So, when we do all these, in the last year, we've done quite a few of these different changes for the personnel board. When they go out to the employees, do they sign anything that says that they viewed that and they accept it as policy?
Honestly, no.
And I think
We
we
do-
need to be doing that, or this isn't any good for their existing employees.
Right, I mean,
only
we
good
did
for new
something when
hires.
they first start with us and say, here's your policy, but then as the updates are coming through,
I think
Not
every 6
necessarily.
months, that should be updated, and we should have new signatures. If we're gonna continue to upgrade these policies, we should upgrade those signatures.
it's not a
I
bad
guess,
idea.
Phil, I guess I would ask you that question, and that's surely we say somewhere towards the end of that policy manual that, and they agree to future updates that are approved. Surely,
That's a good alternative, because
yeah,
'Cause
you
it's
don't
a-
wanna have to
We don't
get
have-
Always
everybody,
print them one.
250 employees to re-sign every time. It ought to say, and any other,
That's what I would understand, they used to do that, they used to go around and say, have your people fill this out, they've got the updates, but you hit a point where it's hard to
Probably.
corral people as it is to get them to do the.
could you check into that, Phil, I guess, as to what it says? And then if we need to change something there, that we change something to
Do you want me to show
to
you the?
suggest that?
I would pull it up if I could.
The tail end of the policy book, I think that's all you're asking for, is to change the tail end of the policy.
Well,
last sentence
I
of the
think
policy.
that's where it would normally be, that's where I see it in most policy books, is at the end it says, and any
So-
new,
this
What
isn't,
is
these
this
policy books are not for them to agree.
Yeah.
It's them to acknowledge it's the policy. Because we don't have an employment contract, we don't want employment contracts. We want them to just be aware the policy exists. That can be done by, if, Lisa, you can email every employee?
Mhm.
Yeah, and say,
Yeah.
personnel boards made some changes to the policy manual,
review,
here's copies for you.
I think that's great.
And
Yeah,
then,
that's what we,
something like that, as
That'd
simple
be
as
fine,
that,
as long as they know what we're doing up here.
right.
I'll take a look at the.
If you could do
I'll take
that,
a look at
that'd be
that
good.
and make sure it's-
I mean, say, I could do it, you don't need the legal counsel to
She
do it,
can
I
do
mean,
it.
I'd
No,
say, I
that's
could
right.
do it, I could show you the form if
I-
that's what you wanna see.
Yeah, I think what he was asking, is there anything we could add on to the last sentence to make this move, tie these to the future?
Lisa, I think it's as simple as an email. You have a thread for all employees, and you just send it out that
Here's it, here's what was decided by the personnel board.
here's the changes, whatever the changes are.
It needs to
That'd
happen,
be
can't
smart
tell you
to
it
do.
always does, but it does, and that would probably solve what you
I
have.
don't think they need to
Right.
sign off on it, but, cause I think in the back of that manual, if I remember, there is a statement or
Kind of a
something.
waiver like that?
Well, it's something we have when new employees sign off and say, yes, I've
But I
received the
think
book,
it's a
and that's,
or-
we've
or-
used that
or
before.
any updates or whatever.
Yeah,
that's-
cause
I
we've
think
had
as
people
long
say,
as
oh, I
Lisa
never got a
notifies everybody,
policy.
we're all right.
And
That
it's
is-
it's on our
Right,
website.
it's on our website too. It's always there,
It's always on the web.
available, and, anybody can see it, as far as that goes.
All
So
the
what did you
employees
need
will
Phil
have
to do?
access. Copies shall be available.
Call Heather.
Oh. Heather wants to speak. Heather, come up front when you get ready to do it.
My only question is, the one that you have them sign,
Yes, that when they first
when they
start.
first start, does it say anything about policies being changed and updated?
No, that's why I was gonna pull it up, but then now I just got
Because
onto the
if it
drive.
would say that, I think it would be covered.
Might be
That would be
covered.
pretty smart. Policies are
You know,
continually updated and on the web.
Policies,
And we don't have to make all those decisions here tonight. If between Lisa and Phil, they take a look at it, make sure that we feel confident that, it does and says what we need it to do, then,
because the policy that you're adding is a good policy.
My
It's
computer
something
just shut
that
down.
we've
Right.
been looking for a while, but I think we just need to point out that policies
right, any policies,
change, any policy.
any
person.
policies in
received-
the future.
Can
And
I agree?
acknowledge, okay, I've received a copy of the personnel manual, it acknowledges my responsibility to read, understand, and follow its rules, policies, terms, and conditions, and agree to abide by them. Failure to do so may result in disciplinary action and or termination. And your question,
The third paragraph.
Third
I acknowledge that the
paragraph
county has the right to change, delete, add to, interpret, and apply the policies in this manual as it sees fit.
There you go.
And in its discretion, I also understand that this personnel
Right.
manual supersedes all previous personnel
There
manuals.
you go.
It is my responsibility to read, comply, follow, and understand the policies and any future revisions.
Right. So that should be, enough and appropriate, and are you okay with that, Phil?
I am.
Okay,
And this
That's
is
good.
I thought
presented
we-
on the person's first day of work,
I thought that it was
And
covered,
just-
but I wanted to be sure.
and there you have
That
it.
answers my question.
Yeah.
And just as a courtesy, send it out by email, so everybody knows.
Absolutely,
That there's an update.
yes. They do see the agenda items beforehand, or that's all emailed out, that, what the topics are. So, I think I gave all the changes we were proposing, like a couple days before the actual meeting, so people should have had them.
Sure.
At least all those that are on email, which is the majority of our people, are good.
Sure. So is there any other discussion from anyone, I guess, on this specific item?
I would move for approval. I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion to approve and a second.
I'm gonna have to do verbal unless you got a minute.
Yeah, her computer now went down.
Just do a verbal on, I'll leave it fine.
Yeah, you can do verbal if you want.
Meyer,
Yes.
Knapper,
Yes.
Blue,
Yes,
Harris,
Yes,
Raisik,
Yes,
okay, motion's carried. Okay, next one.
Okay, number 2 is an adjustment to the overtime pay policy, 3600.001. And I'll just read what we wanna add, and I'll give you a little explanation first. This would apply more to the 24/7 agencies. Say a person calls in sick on Monday, first day of the week, but yet is called in for an extra shift on Saturday. Can Saturday replace the sick day? I mean, it's hours worked. You're not, if you're using sick day or vacation day, we can pay you for 48, but it's gonna be, that, like, say, I'm not talking about the 10-hour shifts or the 12-hour shifts. But say a person's up to 48 hours at that point, it's not overtime unless there's a holiday involved. So if you're using vacation, you're using sick time during the week, it's all gonna be straight hours. So what they're saying is Monday, you called in sick, but you came in extra on Saturday, we can forgive the sick leave.
Hold it over and they can use
Put
it
it
some
back.
other time.
You can
Yeah.
put it back in your bank and we'll pay you for 40 hours. That's the gist of this, if
What
that
about-
makes sense.
Would you pay them the overtime if they work an
There's
extra
no
shift?
overtime involved in this scenario, because vacation and sick time do not qualify they're not hours worked. You have to have 40 hours worked with the exception of holidays, in order to get overtime pay. Overtime pay, I said that really fast. Okay, so the portion that we're adding, employees that use vacation or sick leave earlier in the week, then work additional hours over their scheduled work hours during the remaining week, will have their vacation and sick leave adjusted with those additional hours. Questions? Or do you want me to read the whole policy?
No, you just clarified something that's really good in there.
Yeah, cause I think this is, with it not spelled out, there was confusion.
Phil, what do you say about that one? Is it clear enough?
I think it should be at their discretion. But we don't spell it out.
Yeah,
There's,
Usually vacation, you want,
I say, 'cause you did replace them on their sick date. So I
Mhm.
think they should be charged a sick date,
do you?
yes.
well,
But you're coming in and filling in for someone else's sick day. It's just a
Right.
little domino.
there's other trains of thought out there where if you miss time, you have to use your vacation or sick time. You can't just take it unpaid. So is that part of our policy too?
Is it part of our policy that, yes,
Okay.
that we are going to, that's how it should be. We
If you're
shouldn't just
scheduled
have
for
people.
30 and if you're scheduled for 34 and a half and you work 30, then you have to take
Take it out of your sick
4 and a
day,
half, whether sick or
vacation.
vacation or whatever.
We start getting into a situation where we have no pay days, then your people, then it starts getting into be an abuse situation where they're taking too much time off, period.
Yep.
So,
well,
the-
I would only say that what's before us is what was presented and approved by the Personnel Policy Board. And so, we either have to approve this as it is, or send it back to them and ask them to take another look. But Lisa, said that you're somewhat needing some direction because of, hadn't there been some questions or
mostly out of detention centers.
controversy?
Yeah, or questions out there, and it's like, if it's not stipulated in your policy, you can't, how did theirs go? You can't take, that you can substitute the hours, cause they were wanting to keep it a 40-hour week or 48-hour week, whatever they were, so. They just had some different questions than wanted it spelled out, that we could substitute. Or not, is substitute the right word, or
The,
credit them?
I'd move for approval of the policy.
I'll second.
any other discussion? If not, we'll go ahead and vote. You wanna do it verbally, or,
We're back up and running.
Okay.
It just,
so we can vote electronically, let's go ahead and vote.
you have 4 yeses and 1 no, the knee being blue.
Okay, so the motion's carried, and, we'll go to the next item, regulation of animals.
Okay. This policy was taken, you approved a policy just under a year ago. Take that off, but
Did you make a change to it?
I changed some verbiage to make it not resolution-ish, cause we called it a resolution, so you had hereas, hearsays and stuff.
So now it's gonna be a policy.
So now it's in the policy book
Great.
For employees.
for
We
employees.
still have a resolution that applies more to the public and that
Yeah,
type of thing.
and if you notice, if you walked in the main doors, or all the doors,
Right.
there's little stickers in there
There
that
is.
say,
I seen that.
no
Russ,
animals.
you knew this was coming, where's Millie?
Yeah, I know, and I can't take her to the meetings with Steve anymore.
He's following the rules.
Yeah,
He's following the
That
resolution.
wasn't smart for her to do that.
I know, I like Millie.
I do too.
Scotts Bluff, I'm just gonna read the first 3 paragraphs, I don't think I changed anything with a 1 or 2 or 3 in front of it, so. But the first 3, Scotts Bluff County owns, maintains, and operates a number of buildings accessible to both employees and members of the public. And Scotts Bluff County is responsible for protecting the health and safety of all employees and members of the public visiting county buildings, and controlling access to county buildings by employees and members of the public with animals in the best interest to protect employees and members of the public. And then, I can read through all this if you'd like. Or, I mean, it's very much like the resolution we passed, I did not change things. Except down here, we did say, number 8, any employee or member of the public may make a referral of an issue involving service animals, just service animals, and Scotts Bluff County buildings to the Scotts Bluff County Human Resource Office, the Sheriff Department, or Building Services. And then left in there, we approved it, the commissioners approved the resolution on March 4th. New policy to add to our personnel policy, 9600.
I'd move for approval. I'll second.
Any discussion? Alright, we'll go ahead and vote electronically.
Not ready,
You have 5 yeses.
Motion's carried. Go to the next item, I think the last item. Smoking.
We added pictures of, okay, no smoking and vaping policy. The last sentence of this, the county further restricts smoking and vaping within a 25-foot perimeter of all entrances to all county buildings. The policy verbiage did not change, but what we added were the pictures that I believe you should have. This is the administration building, and you got the 5 entrances. And the green is the 25-foot perimeter. And possible places for a smoke area is the red dots. So you can see we got spaces off, let's see. The door that people use over here, there's a space in between the 2 green dots. And over here, right beside this little co over here, I don't know what to explain, you guys can look at it yourself. This is the old jail, and pretty much most of it is open. There aren't too many public entrances, or entrances, they aren't public. Right there, the green is where Jay and his crew walk in, and then there's the courthouse.
The one green area to the north side of the administration building, the one that the stairs, the public doesn't use that. And this, aren't we doing this to protect the public, not so much the employees?
Well, a little bit of both.
Is it? Okay. I mean, I don't, you know, that particular area it's kind of protected. The public doesn't use it, so we're not really. But the other ones, I guess I don't have a problem with, and you very seldom see anybody outside of the main doors or anybody else.
Correct.
The red dots are suggested smoking areas, right?
Yes.
But in reality, they could smoke anywhere where there's not a green circle.
That would be correct.
So where that red, the area that I'm talking about, is that that little protected cove
On the north side,
on the north side?
there's
It's further
nothing
to
there,
the
it's in between,
further
it's a grassy
east,
area.
yeah.
Well, and the problem I have with that one being okay is our shelter area. If there's people using that shelter area in between, I don't think we should be smoking over by them.
Shelter area in between.
Lindsay's Memorial.
Lindsay's got
Oh.
a green dot on it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but the red dot where it's okay
Oh, I
is
see.
near that, and I just don't
Well.
think it's appropriate if there's somebody using it.
And I personally, right here where I come in, a lot of us come in, I don't see a problem with this, right there.
Yeah.
Where people kind of, it's hidden, but for the most part, I guess people going to the courthouse can see, but it's still considered in the green.
Have we received many complaints about?
Not personally, I have some that come in through smoke and say, I have it in my hair and I don't like that, or
Yeah,
can't sit at the table, cause the ashtray's overflowing. This came to us through employee representative, so it wasn't something that I was seeking.
I don't
Oh,
have
and
a
then,
problem
yeah, I
in
guess
any
we'll-
of it except that area to the north, that north side.
Well, I still think that we ought to add something in there, just what was talked about was to make sure that we clean up those areas, that those areas are clean where they do smoke. Somebody needs to be in charge of that, cause I've seen there's not much, a lot of times, a lot of stuff stays a long time out there. As long as cigarette packs, cigarettes on the ground.
This was probation building, by the way. as far as keeping it clean, keeping it picked up.
Well, somebody, I mean, our janitor, somebody needs to look at that, I guess, whoever's gonna do it.
It would probably be either people
Well,
using it or the, I would think building.
Or
service.
smokers
I
need to do
think-
it.
Wasn't there some discussion about, maybe being sure that we supplied like a place to put the cigarette butts? Because I think if there's a place supplied for them to put them, they'll probably do it.
They would, I agree.
And, but if there's nothing there, then it gets to be more of a problem.
It does. And then,
And-
of course, the comments I hear are, I don't smoke, why should I have to clean up?
So if
Cause
we
that's
get a
part of
mental,
buildings and grounds too, isn't it? So, yes.
so if we get a metal garbage can with a lid and a couple of holes drilled in the top so they can drop things in and kinda sorts out the sizes.
Do we
So-
have that out there right now, don't we, Kelly? Isn't there already a garbage can? It just doesn't get emptied? When you're talking the metal,
Okay.
Well,
I
we
think-
can,
the trash right there by the,
But if we're gonna designate those areas, we should have each one of those set up the same.
well,
Fair enough.
and we can,
What's that?
They make the little smokers outpost, the cans.
Yeah.
right,
You do $100 each.
we can get Jay to maybe get those things.
Each one of
put
those
in.
areas should be outfit with something, so they have them. And I think you need a red dot right where you generally go, don't you, Kelly? So we consider that a spot?
he must not have been here. for
Well,
that.
that's,
Oh, I heard you.
again, that little red dot in between those two green ones is what, I think,
this is the.
She-
yeah,
She smokes to the west of there,
yeah, I
right
know,
there.
right there.
Right there.
in-
So we
right
need
where
a-
the green,
So if she just
right
moves
where
a
the green
little
dot
closer
is.
to the
What I'm saying is
tree.
we need a red dot there, so we designate a
Yeah,
smoke
so
unit
it's
or
not
the,
just Kelly,
Right.
they're, I mean,
Yeah,
that's,
there's others,
there's a
and,
picnic
yeah.
table there, it's
Oh,
got
sure.
a break area, and that's.
but if we're gonna designate those areas, then we should put something there for
And
them
the
to,
employees aren't coming, or not employees, citizens aren't coming in and out of that door.
no, that's right.
generally
That's
not.
why I don't have a
Well,
problem
the funny
with it.
thing is, people stop and visit us while we're out there at that picnic table doing that nasty habit of smoking. People stop and visit with us.
Go
People,
seek her out.
people want you guys to give us a shelter on top of it. Non-smokers. Since we're talking about the county clerk smoking anyway, cause
No,
I asked not
But I would
to.
like to
Yeah.
designate that
We
area
were
so
hoping
you,
not to do
so you
that.
reserve a spot.
Trying to help you
Well,
here, Doug.
I know.
Don't get too nasty.
Well, we have one of two options, the way I see it. We either need to approve this as it is, or we gotta send it back to them.
Let's send it back to them and add another designated area and then also define what type of smoke, apparatus
Container?
you're gonna have,
Is
container to
this the
catch
only,
smoking.
is this the only area in question?
Yeah.
Cause
it's the only
why,
one we
why
have.
could we
Where
just
she's
approve that with changing that over to what we wanna do?
I think we can do
Well,
that, I mean,
Yeah.
but it should also include the smoke containers in each one of those areas.
Yeah,
So-
and I got no problem with that, but
Do you think we would need to throw it back to, with the exception of, I mean, it says smoking or vaping within a 25-foot perimeter. So that's what is being followed, do we need to go with the exception of these two
So
areas?
then over there, I mean, I see the red dot, we're talking about the administration building, moving between the employee entrance door and Heather's auto registration door for inspections. In between there. But then the other direction, it's not a designated spot, but we'd be 25 foot away from the entrance, but then we're that much closer to the public on the sidewalk, where it's not a red dot.
couldn't you
here?
eliminate,
Yeah.
just eliminate that red circle? Farthest one to the east.
That one,
I mean, not the red circle, the green circle. That's not public entrance, it's not,
well, that's what it says on there, all entrances.
All entrances.
Of all
is what
entrances
this
Says
to
all
all
entrances,
county
that's the
buildings.
deal. So it has to be, unless we change the wording in it to say public.
or
entrance.
move the red thing over to the,
I
We
would-
could,
I
maybe
would
we
agree.
could
I
look
would
at,
just add one more red dot, leave both of them there, put another
Okay.
red dot that way.
that would be my motion, to adopt the
the maps.
to adopt the maps with the addition of another red dot taken in the break area on the west side of the door.
And smoking apparatuses at each red
And
dot.
smoking apparatus at each one.
Yeah, that's right. I'd
So you're
second
saying,
that.
Okay, that's
are
my
you guys,
motion.
just so I understand, you're talking here, clarifying?
Yes, put one there.
Put one there, move
That's
the
the red-
bench down?
That's the red circle.
Put the red circle.
Okay,
They're like, let the people smoke where they already smoke, is basically what I
Yeah,
just
that's what
heard.
we'd like to see, yeah.
Gene is the, chairman of the Personnel Policy Board, and I would ask you, Gene, do you feel that that's within the spirit of this policy, or do we need to send it back?
Okay, I was talking to Troy.
Okay,
So, feel like what's in the spirit of the policy?
you better come over here so you can see the map. So, right there where the arrow is pointing,
Yes.
they're suggesting another red spot right there. And then, that's a suggestion, and then the other part of it is, including, containers at each one of the red dots.
Well, the only thing is if you put a red spot where the arrow is pointing, and I wasn't at the meeting, I was ill, but, Kelly's right, you're gonna end up having a lot of people that come in from that parking lot on the north side and walk along that west sidewalk into the door that are gonna be right there.
The public entrance.
The public entrance. Now, there are some people that go in and out of that side door, a lot of employees, sheriff's deputies primarily. But we bring people sometimes, you know, the public comes in, they go out.
Very, very
Follow
rarely.
us, yeah, some people follow us
Yeah.
in sometimes.
I don't know where you would put them,
Put what?
the smokers.
Well-
That's where they're at right now.
Just
That's
leave them where they're
Kelly-
The
at.
red ones.
Leave where they're at,
Basically,
adjust
the,
this to compensate for it, that's all.
That's where Kelly usually smokes right now. The girls usually sit
We're not
out there.
supposed to bring her up.
Yeah.
yeah,
I-
Oh, never mind, it
If
wasn't.
if I
It's too late.
remember,
certain people,
if I remember correctly, it was brought by the employee representative.
right,
And, I don't know if it was him personally or others that were complaining, I don't remember.
I don't know.
I don't disagree with all the citizen entrances, but, you know, that's fine, but.
But outdoors is kinda outdoors.
The
When you're
outdoors is, yeah, the outdoors is there and we have a picnic table there, it's a break area, and those that do wanna smoke while they're out there, at least they'll have a place to do it. And by making this circle outside of that area, you haven't accomplished anything, cause they're gonna be standing out in the wind
Basically,
and everything,
it's
yeah.
with nothing there, it's available anyway.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to have a red dot there.
But this will give us an apparatus to collect the
Well,
cigarette.
they're not gonna be in violation of this policy
No.
If they're outside of the green,
unless we change that.
right, they wouldn't be in violation of the policy.
But it's better to designate those spots that do get used.
I would say eliminate the green circle to the west
To the east,
and, or to the, well,
Yeah.
no, coming this way.
So that
Yeah,
one is the
think-
one that-
Where
So
the
just give
picnic table is now.
Where the picnic table is now, eliminate that green circle and put move the red circle over to there. And then you're not, cause you're gonna have more people walking out of this east door, getting their vehicles checked.
Yes.
That's more of a citizen entry than the other
Actually,
one
she
is.
sends it
Well,
back the other
actually,
way.
yeah, cause Heather, where do you send your,
People
when people go out, customers go out that north door on the west end.
Even if they can't get back in that door,
Yeah, they go out there.
they go out that door.
But they
for
don't go out
inspections.
they don't go out the same door your employees go out to look at vehicles?
No,
Oh,
because
okay.
that goes through my office.
Oh, okay, yeah, that'd be right.
So there's essentially two entrances. The one on the east is just more of an employee, and the one on the west, there are tons of people that go out that door. Like she said, they can't get back in, but
Right.
they go out.
There are a lot of people, I mean, when we originally locked that door, there were a lot of people that were really offended that we locked that door and made it so that it was only employee access going in. But, you know, they've gotten over that part, but there's a lot of people that still use that door.
But I would suggest the reason this was brought up was that location.
Yeah.
Probably.
Um,
And, you
just
know,
based upon what I was hearing some at the personnel board.
And possibly if a person doesn't wanna walk through that entrance, they're usually 8 to 4:30, or they can come through the front door.
On the south side of the admin building, more toward, I realize you've got that, right in there, against the building, you could move a picnic table or something there. There's a lot less public there, the public is more south of that south entrance,
About
going
where that
into
red
the
circle
court
is.
building. Well, yeah, maybe a little more west, but, and they would still be protected by the building.
Is that one, green circle where the gazebo is? Is that why that
Yes.
one's there? I see.
But they would be protected by the building there on the south side.
Well,
And
Why
then
wouldn't, why wouldn't we wanna smoke on the gazebo? Is there a reason for that?
Well, it's
It's
a
a memorial.
memorial.
Okay.
That's
But
kinda
that-
disrespectful.
just
Smokers
feels
have
like-
rights
That
over
sidewalk is the only entrance to the courthouse also.
Well, no, because it's the only entrance for mostly employees going in there, but see,
I'm talking about the courthouse, not the
The
administration.
north side of it.
no, they park here and they come along this
Right.
Oh, I see,
sidewalk.
okay.
They're not, the employees sometimes are walking over here.
Yeah, gotcha.
But the public is not coming out there generally.
Or they're coming from the street.
Now, if we remove that green circle to the west, we'd have to change this policy, cause it says all entrances on here have to be
To me,
25-foot radius.
we either adopt it the way it is, or we send it back. It's one or the other.
Yeah.
Adopt it,
We're not-
deal with it.
Right.
What's your opinion,
We're not,
Kelly?
She said adopt it, we'll deal with it, is what she
Okay.
said.
that's what,
You,
that's
you
what
guys
Kelly said.
put me on a snow pile is probably where I deserve to be because I shouldn't be a smoker anyway.
Now,
Well,
this policy, if it's gonna be a policy, it has to be for the public and the employees, or else you don't have a policy.
Right.
Cause if you don't, then it's discriminatory.
And we're gonna have to put up signs to designate those areas, designated.
And over by the old, jail, I mean,
Most of it's up, it's fine.
Yeah.
There's no- This is the only entrance where people walk in, really,
yeah, well,
so,
But that,
and some of them smoke, so
that's a door.
that's the only door, right?
it's not a public entrance.
Jay's door, I thought
Mhm.
it said any entrance. Does
Yeah.
this not say any entrance?
Does it say any entrance?
It does say all county, all
Entrance there.
entrances.
well,
It says all entrances.
There
Ah.
is a door
Yeah,
here
Oh,
to take you to your storage.
there is.
So that one needs to be marked then.
And this is the green dot.
Can you just,
And there's a door on the south end.
Yeah, there.
can you just eliminate all entrances and just say designated smoking and non-smoking areas
I,
as
I
per
think
the
it
map?
would be easier just to say these, like you said, these are the smoking areas
Yeah,
and
just
everywhere
designate the
else
smoke.
is banned.
Yeah.
okay. So we
Take
need to
away the
take it
green-
back.
right.
It has to
So
go
I
back.
would suggest that, so do we need a motion to send it back, or just,
Defeat it.
We got
we don't do
we got a
anything-
motion on the floor and a second. right
Recommend.
now.
I didn't have a, who
no,
was the
do
second?
we oh,
Yes,
I
we
only
do.
had a motion. Who
I
was the
made-
second?
I made the motion to approve it with the changes.
oh,
And I second it.
okay, so
I
you
didn't
got a
hear you.
motion and a second.
I heard you add the part, but I didn't
So the
hear you.
best thing is to vote no and we'll send it back.
All right, so we have a
Recommend.
motion and a second, any
Oh,
other
you helped,
discussion?
thank you. Designating, so commissioners
so-
recommend designating smoking area. That's what I'm taking back.
To designate the smoking only areas and,
Smoking only.
yeah. All right, and so a no vote would send it back to her.
Right.
A yes vote would approve a modified agreement, but, okay, so let's go ahead and vote
We got
digitally.
You
Well,
have
that's a-
5 no's?
Never seen that
Okay.
before.
So 5 no's, which means we send it back to the Personnel Policy Committee, okay?
Okay.
All right. So then, Ms. Lisa, it looks like you're up next again. So this is to discuss and consider the memorandum of understanding, Scotts Bluff County General Assistance and Community Action Partnership of Western Nebraska.
Take a 5 minute.
Okay, before you start on that, we're gonna take a 5-minute recess.
Okay, good, then I can. Can I go?
Ready, Miss Kelly? Let me know.
Yes.
Okay. Meeting will come back in session. So we're on the, consideration of the memorandum of understanding between Scotts Bluff County and Community Action. Miss Lisa?
Okay, I talked about this a little bit the other day, but didn't have the memorandum ready to show you. Ken and I did meet with Betsy Beadlock and Kelsey Guerrero, I think, I can't remember her last name, about the potential of trying to have them administer our general assistance. Other counties do this. For instance, and this is where I got my memorandum that you have here, Buffalo County has worked with their Community Action Partnership for a number of years, that they just take care of the clientele. The people know where to come, they're used to coming there, and instead of us sharing in like a rental assistance situation, and, cause what would happen before is you have a person who's needing some assistance. They go to Capwin. Capwin says, have you talked to the county yet? So we're both gathering financial assistance, and then Capwin has several different buckets. Like they get Salvation Army money, that's the one I can think of, but they gave us like United Way money that they can draw from, but then they also know we have some, so say a person needs $400 in rental assistance, that perhaps Capwin will say, we'll pay $250, the county will pay $150. So we're dealing with the same clientele and sending them different places, and these people don't have a lot of reserves as it is, and or time. If they're trying to hold a job, you're asking them to take time out of the workday to do this administrative piece. So Capwin was very receptive, and the other gals, they have like a team of them, 4 or 5 people that work together to, when people come in needing assistance, and they know which buckets they can draw from, whether it be United Way or Salvation Army, or I don't know their other assistance, but anyway, that they know, they gather the information, work with the people that need the assistance, and then they will get together and have a powwow the next morning and discuss how they can help or if they can help. Because not everybody's going to qualify, right? The neat part of it then too is they require people to respond to them in a matter of a couple days. And, you know, okay, if you want this, then we need a copy of your utility bill. We need a copy of your rental agreement, whatever information they need, and they hold them accountable. And if they don't see them back, then we're gonna put you to the side for the next person. And they also keep in touch with the people for a period of time and check back to see if everything's going okay. Maybe is your situation improving? You said you got a job. How's your job, new job going? Are you able to, are you working through your issues? So, anyway, I think this would be a win-win for the community in need, for them to be able to go to one place with people that know how to respond and work with them and hold them accountable too, so.
But they maintain, I know you mentioned, they maintain a data sheet on all of it.
Yep, that's part of the memorandum, is they will provide us, they would provide us monthly reports, but I put it in here to provide with quarterly reports. So, with that, I will read the memorandum. Is that okay, or do you prefer I don't?
You know, I would say it's probably not necessary for us, but it might be for the public that might be listening to this.
Okay.
And so if you want to read it, you could. Let me make one comment before you do, and this is really kinda petty possibly, but I think the CAPWN, the way they abbreviate is CAPWN, does not have a Y.
Okay, it's fixed.
Oh, it's already fixed,
Scott
okay,
Miller shared
good,
that with me the other day. I fixed it on
Okay.
my one up here. I had it
good,
wrong. Yeah.
very good.
I thought it was,
Y?
yeah, I thought it was Capwin with some Wyoming in there, so anyway, I'm
Yeah,
wrong.
no problem,
I fixed it.
okay,
So,
good.
The memorandum of understanding is made and entered by and between Community Action Partnership of Western Nebraska, herein referred to as Capwin, and the Scotts Bluff County Board of Commissioners, hereinafter referred to as Scotts Bluff County, to be effective December 1, 2024. I'm very optimistic this is gonna go. For, and in consideration of the covenants and agreements contained herein, and for their mutual benefits, the parties agree as follows. Capwin will administer the Scotts Bluff County General Assistance Fund on behalf of the county, following the Scotts Bluff County General Assistance Guidelines and in compliance with County Medical and General Assistant Program under sections 68104, 68114, you can read them all, reissue revised statutes of Nebraska. Capwin will staff the program with properly trained employees that are subject to random drug screens that have been cleared through the state of Nebraska Central Registry of offenses against children and dependent adults, state and federal criminal history background, and state of Nebraska motor vehicle operator record checks. All services provided under this agreement will be in compliance with the Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, which provides that no recipient of services provided by this agreement shall be discriminated against on the basis of race, color, creed, national origin, ethnic background, sex, age, or disability. Okay, Scotts Bluff County agrees to pay Capwin $1,150 per month, or $8,050 for fiscal year 24-25, and hereinafter $14,000 for the following years, to staff and administer the General Assistance Fund, plus reimburse Capwin for expenditures made on behalf of those qualified individuals as outlined in the Scotts Bluff County General Assistance Guidelines. Capwin will provide the county with a quarterly accounting of those expenditures. Amount of assistance will be determined by the county during the budget process. The parties further agree that either party may cancel and terminate this MOU upon 30 days written notice to the other party, in witness whereof the parties have executed this MOU in the year and on the date set forth below. So, this is what I have to present to you. I have not presented this to Capwin yet.
So, let me be sure I understand that the $8,050 is for the administrative cost, or the cost to pay them to do the work. Then in addition, we'll be making whatever, we budget into that fund to give to them, to be money divvied out to the people that need it.
Right, and from what I saw from Buffalo County, they got a billing monthly to pay it out. We discussed more of, okay, here's what we're going to give you, $30,000 for general, county burials and emergency relief, and you can disperse it and report to us as you expend it, and let us know how the funds were used. I guess it could go either way. I gave you an approximation of where this account is right now. That's what this is. And how we've been for the last 3 years and where we are at today, because we did used to budget a part of an FTE to doing this, and she no longer works for the county as of October 31st. So you'll see some
But to me,
wages.
it gets us, again, this should be quite a bit less expensive than our administrative costs previous, and it kinda gets us out of the business, and I kinda like that. The funds that are appropriated come from Keno funds, and I guess,
That's how we've been handling it today.
right, and I think if there's an appropriate place for Keno funds to go, it may certainly be here. And so I don't really have a problem with that. It's just that each year, we're gonna have to make that decision, and then, how much it's gonna be in the that we're gonna give. And then, are you suggesting that we possibly give them a full lump sum amount, right away at the beginning of the year, maybe at the very least? I'm thinking,
Part of it, maybe.
yeah, maybe
we need to
half, or
figure-
maybe quarterly, something like that. It shouldn't have to be monthly, but something that makes it fairly easy for you, but you certainly don't wanna give them the full amount at the beginning of the year, and then all of a sudden something happens halfway through, and you've already given it to them, and,
Right.
you know, that's my
That's,
thoughts.
that's to be, I mean, like I said,
Decided.
I haven't given this
That's
to
not part of
them.
this.
No, and how we would manage that is a good question. I mean, maybe quarterly draws. But you can see for the last, just like, 2 year, I mean, last year I came to you because we had budgeted a certain amount based on experience, but we had a lot more people asking. So,
We've had to do budget enhancements the last 2 years for this.
I think so, I think it's the last two, for sure last year, and I thought the year before too. And I gave you some information I pulled together about this that I thought I could use as a supplement. And what we've been paying typically for county burials, emergency night stay, we give them up to 2 nights, and I put 69, maybe it's 79. Rental assistance, and again, this is, I didn't ever hear from the predecessor, okay, so this is our limit, but I was throwing out a limit, we'd give up to $400 to a person, but it's a one time a year thing. Once every 12 months, not 2024, so then they can come to us in 2025, it's a 12-month cycle. So if you come to us in November, you're not eligible till next year in November, okay? Utility assistance, fuel for your car, $25 amount, is typically allowed. We give them a voucher to go to Legacy Co-op. I saw we gave more recently. And that was, then looking for the explanation was a woman had to take her child to Denver for medical services, so she gave her 40. I guess that's sometimes as you feel the need, or, I mean, there is people that need the assistance, so.
But we'll be out of that equation of figuring those things out.
Yes.
And rest assured that once somebody goes to Kaplan, because of the extra cash that they have and the other funds that they can dip into, part of the discussion we had at the board meeting 2 weeks ago or whenever it was, they have food, they have a food bank, they have food boxes they can put together. So, you know, we all know that $25 at the grocery store, you know, a couple gallons of milk and some bread. And so they have much more means to help somebody a whole lot more than we do. And then that takes the responsibility away from these guys that have to look at them and say, trying to make that decision, should I give you 25 or 50 or one night or 2 nights or take a gas or not? They do all of it, and they're used to dealing with that. They deal with it all the time. And they've got probably much more resources than we have to deal with it, and deal with it, I think, in a much better situation than what we do.
But we need to do it, if we're gonna do it on a budget, then we kinda need to let them know what our budget is, so when, you know,
Right.
so they don't exceed our
Right.
budget.
Their
Right.
conversation, I'm sorry, their conversation was not so much that they can't afford to do it.
You know,
That didn't even come up. There wasn't an issue with it.
Did you have something, Kelly? I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Are you adding your numbers together, or is it's once a year 14,000 total? Once a year, 14,000 total?
That's yeah,
Did
but
you
not
just-
this year because we're already
Because you've already
years.
used up some of the months.
We're already 5 months into it.
Okay.
Just a minute, did you already discuss this with them on this, 14,000?
That's the number, I know I showed him the copy of the Buffalo County, this is where I started.
Okay,
So now I need your permission, are you okay with this? We can take
Well-
it to them and they'll either like it or
They-
they'll
yeah, they may
retract
come
it.
back with another number.
well, yeah, but generally, they've already got this administration handled. I think, you know, anybody else that donates to them, I mean, we're looking at just making a donation. I think they already have their administration in place. I don't know why we're paying them to administrate. I mean, if I was gonna make a donation to the Red Cross, I wouldn't wanna pay for administration and then make a donation. I don't know that we really need to do that, do we?
Other than,
Well-
it's gonna be a different fund for them that they can draw upon. I mean, they'll set aside, they'll have, like I said, Salvation Army, they'll have United Way money, they'll have our money that can be used to pay for a burial. They'll take care of that, where those other funds can't be used that way.
And maybe we're putting too much emphasis on the administration side.
I think so.
Well, I've got a little bit of experience there, and there will be some layered administrative duties and accounting practices that have to be followed, because this money will be in a different fund. For $14,000, I think we're getting a steal. It's $20,000 less than what we were spending on administration prior. $1,000 a month is a heck of a deal.
We were paying 35,000 before,
That's what we budgeted.
is what we budgeted,
That's what we
and
were,
so,
that's what we were doling out.
right, and so,
But at this point, they haven't even asked for any administration fees at this point. I mean, we're offering it to them. Maybe they ought to look at maybe just what we're giving them. They can bust it out of wherever whatever donations we're putting, putting through there.
The way Betsy presented it to the board, it was going to be an additional fund that they have to draw from. Or, and not even an additional fund, but an additional amount into one of the funds that they have. And she mentioned United Way, she mentioned the Salvation Army Fund, that could go into one of those that they could draw from to help the individuals.
And another, we're not calling it a donation to them, correct?
No.
Okay, I was gonna say, I don't know that we have authority for something.
No,
Well,
we're
it
just- we're
winds
just-
up
we're
being
just-
that at the tail end.
we're requiring some reporting. And and because of that, it seems to me that the, some payment for administrative costs might be appropriate, because we're requiring reporting.
We're
and-
required by statute to do this.
And so I'm not, oh, well, then that would certainly help in that we would be able to substantiate what
Yeah.
we're doing. So I
Yeah, we listed statutes.
would, certainly, I wouldn't be opposed to the dollar amount that we're talking about. And then we're looking at an amount of about 55,000 in a contribution on an annual basis, or somewhere near that would be my guess. And, so and again, that part's not part of this agreement. It just says we'll decide that on an annual basis in the budget.
Correct.
And, so, I'm not,
Well, it's specific in the fact that to staff and administer assistant fund, plus reimburse Kaplan for expenditures made on behalf of those qualified individuals. So we've already broke it out.
Do I have your okay to try?
I
right,
would,
what we
I
have
would,
right
I would move approval of this.
I will second.
And if they don't accept it, I would have to
It'll
come back
to
to
us
council.
for
right.
additional.
Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, let's go ahead and vote.
Okay, you have 5 yeses.
All right, the motion's carried, and that'll give Lisa the authorization to go take it back to them. All right, so then Lisa, you have the next 3 items,
Oh, yes, I do.
which are Keno remote location agreements.
Yeah, this is, every 3 years, we need to get this updated we pay a certain percentage to the city of Scotts Bluff, city of Mitchell, and to the village of Morrill to hold Keno in their village and towns. And then in response, we pay them a portion of the gambling that happens in each of their towns and village. That's what this is showing. We pay, like here in Scotts Bluff, that's the first one I pulled up. We pay like 1% of the gross proceeds from Frontside to the city of Scotts Bluff, but we pay 5% at Rax. I think 1% was negotiated years ago because we have a lot of other costs that go into hosting our Keno site there. So, this is what we've been doing. And it also, I threw in a sentence that says, in any other satellite locations established during the term of this agreement.
The numbers haven't changed, have they?
They
as
have
far as
not changed.
Percentages.
And I did have Phil looked it over,
Just change the dates.
just changed the dates, and like I said, I did say different locations, cause it would be nice if we could have another location in Scotts Bluff. But,
All right, I would move approval of the, remote location for the city of Scotts Bluff.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? All right, we'll go ahead and vote.
Sign those. Okay. If I need to pull them up, this is basically the same thing, that's City of Mitchell is the same agreement.
You had 5 yeses.
Oh.
Sorry,
pardon me.
motion's carried. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, City of Mitchell, right now we have Red's Bar. And if they open any other, we would handle them in a similar manner, take their gross gambling and a certain percentage goes back to the city and they use it for however they choose to use the money, but it has to be in a, kinda similar to us, use it for something that's going to benefit your community.
So again, nothing's changed, none of the numbers have changed, just changed the date, correct? I would move for approval of the lease operation in City of Mitchell.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. There's a line on there.
You have 5 yeses?
All right, motion's carried. So then we'll go to the next one, which is, Moral.
Same situation, our outlet there is the Rustic Bar. We spoke about that last week.
I move for approval of the remote location in the Village Mall.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second for the Moral Agreement. Any, other discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote.
Russ? Ken?
Excuse me.
We're voting on the Moral Agreement.
You have 5 yeses?
Okay. So the motion's carried. So that takes care of all 3 of the Keno remote locations. And so Lisa, you just will stay there for the next item, old business, time clock plus, and payroll process update.
I'm no different than last week, I have an appointment set up for tomorrow
Okay,
with,
You're giving me those, right?
yes, with, Justin, Jason, and his name. That might
With-
proceed in TCP.
okay,
Begins
from
with a J.
time clock plus. Okay, any further questions on this item? All right, hearing none, we'll continue down the agenda. The next item is public comments. The Board of Commissioners will receive public comments on items discussed at this meeting or suggestions for items of discussion at a future board meeting. The board will not take action on comments presented on this date. Is there anyone here from the public that would like to comment on anything here tonight? Seeing none, we'll go on to the next line item, which is board and staff reports. We're gonna start on this side. Mr. Kelly said he had something, so we'll let him.
Just want to bring to your attention that, in the last legislative session, the legislature passed a Foreign Adversary Contracting Prohibition Act that, requires the county to put in any bids or requests for proposals, provisions about, the vendor not having any connections with a foreign adversary, which would include China, Cuba, Iran, North Korea, and Venezuela. That list comes out of the federal government's Code of Federal Regulations that establishes those as foreign adversaries. So to the extent that any subcontractors or any parts or any electronic chips and things like that may be part of what product a vendor would be providing to the county, they're gonna have to disclose that. And we'd have to determine whether it's an exception to the statute. And that'll have to be part of any contracts going forward with any vendors that either they have, some electronic or chips or whatever that are manufactured in a foreign country, or they don't. So I just wanna make you aware of that requirement that we will now have, and it's a requirement that applies to all political subdivisions.
Phil, is that if they're buying directly from that country, or if they're buying from a vendor?
The vendor who acquires, some product
Okay.
from one of those countries that's
So
manufactured.
the contractor basically is going to buy a whatever from a vendor, and that vendor purchased that from some
From
other
a
country.
Chinese manufacturer or
So
something
then
like that.
they have to sign
Yeah.
whatever it is.
There's a form that they'll have to fill out that'll be, as I recommend at least it'll be part of any bid package that they have to comply with this state statute. And they'll have to fill the form out, and so I just wanna make you generally aware that that's gonna be a component of our contracting, in the future.
What, will you be making up some language then for staff to be including in their, bid,
Lisa and I
request
just-
for bids?
We just exchanged information about this afternoon, so we'll get together and see what needs to be done
Okay.
for language in bid packages and a standard paragraph that'll go in every contract.
And this is in addition to the land purchases also?
Yes.
Any real estate
Yeah,
transaction?
this is for, things other than
This
real
is in
estate.
addition to that.
In addition
one.
to that, disclosure form that all buyers are required to sign on real estate purchases.
Okay,
Does that pertain to anything beyond electronics? Everything?
I haven't read every line of the statute yet. I've looked at the summary of it, and, so
I'd
we're
seen-
simply gonna have to comply with the statute, the vendors will have to comply with the statute, and I don't know whether it includes, whether there's some steel from China that's in a frame of some product, I don't.
right.
I'd read a little blurb on that, and it was, a lot of it had to do with electronics and chips and things where they could capture any information.
I think it's,
A piece of ID would have a hard time doing that.
I think that's correct. That's the intent.
Okay.
So-
But
so
you'll
make
do
you aware
whatever
of
needs
that.
to be done to help our staff
Yeah,
meet the
we'll-
requirements.
we'll do that.
Okay, good. Okay, so we're in the comments section. Lisa, do you have anything else to comment on?
I didn't bring it up last week, but then Twin Cities Development is having their annual meeting Friday. If anyone was interested in attending, we need to get the RSVP out. It's up at the Scotts Bluff Country Club, I think from 11:30 to 1. And we're getting, RSVPs for our employee luncheon, December 4th, thank you. So if you haven't RSVP'd and you choose to attend, please get that to us right away.
Okay,
That's all.
Are y'all gonna go
I am.
Yes.
What?
to our appreciation dinner?
Yep.
Ken?
I don't know yet.
Okay. You got 4 yeses.
Okay,
I got 4?
Ken is undecided.
Okay.
Okay.
fine. Tyler, do you have anything?
Nope, not today.
Okay. Yep,
Real quick, and I guess I might have to talk to Phil about this. After 4 years, I do have a contract for our new route match software we currently use with some additional features. The state's gonna be, if this gets approved as is, they'll pick up 100% of the upfront costs for the additions, and then the only additional cost to us will be just the annual maintenance fee. I've just got it today, so I haven't even looked over the language of it, and probably need to talk to Phil to make sure, because this company is, the parent company is based out of Canada, but to see if there's any issues with servers or anything possibly being in China or anything, or in foreign, adversary country, but,
okay,
other than that, waiting on 4 buses to come in, probably make a trip to Lincoln. I'm trying to get them shipped out here, but that probably won't happen until future contracts with them for new vehicles,
okay,
so.
thanks, appreciate it. Heather?
I just wanted to give you guys an update and let you know that I was working with Shabana all last week from the assessor's office on getting the download for our tax statements, and it looks like we're really close to having all the information that we need. So we will be getting our tax statements mailed out hopefully either the last business day of November or the beginning of December. So those will be coming out in the next couple weeks.
And that'll be the actual tax statement.
The actual tax statement for 2024.
Okay.
So,
I received a call on that today.
What's that?
They were looking up several properties where the property value went up a little bit and the actual tax went down a lot.
if the
And-
value of your home stayed the same or stayed close to the same, then your tax statements, especially if you live in, city of Scotts Bluff, where the school came down and the county came down on their levy, the taxes are actually gonna be
Well,
less.
there was called and talked to Siobhan about it, and there's the state is giving some refunds. to the
Yeah, and then
school.
there's a new state tax credit
Yeah.
that the legislature enacted during their emergency session, and that's caused a lot of programming issues, and that's what she's been working
I
really
looked up
hard
mine,
on.
mine went down almost $1,000.
Yeah, and
$1,000?
we'll get that money
When it's all- when
and
it's
be
all
able
gonna
to
be done.
distribute it straight out to the schools instead of it being on your income tax.
So isn't the state, what you used to get on your tax return, now they're giving it up front?
They're giving it to
And
you
that's
upfront
why
when you pay your taxes, so you're gonna see a lot of people's
Reduction.
taxes be less.
Yeah,
So I think that tax credit for the county, when we get the tax credit to distribute back out to the schools, will be about 9 million. So,
It
Okay.
was, everyone they pulled up, there was a substantial reduction in the property tax you're gonna have to
yeah,
pay.
it has been a programming nightmare for the Department of Revenue, the Assessor's Office, and the Treasurer's Office to get everything programmed in such a short amount of time, but it'll be good for the taxpayers,
good.
so,
Appreciate you letting us know.
thank you.
Heather, I got a question on interest rates.
Yeah.
Do you foresee any issues with the projected revenues we had with the lowering interest rates?
We're more than halfway at what we projected for the budget year, although we have seen interest rates go down just a little bit at this point. If they continue to go way, way down after the first of year, when we have the presidency change, I'm not sure. I will update you. I do send you guys that report every month of how much, we've collected, which I receipt interest in, like, I'll receipt November's interest in December, so we did at least get June's interest at the higher rate, so that helped us a little bit. And we do have some investments that are locked in at higher rates that'll pay off before the end of the year. So hopefully, it'll probably be closer than what it has been, but last year we had a really good year, so.
Okay, appreciate it. Steve?
I don't want to, because last week I was just up here and said that the Broadway Bridge was probably gonna be after Thanksgiving, but it sounds like this Thursday afternoon, they're gonna shut it down.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's what,
better
the traffic
change.
control company, I guess, got whatever they needed done, so they're gonna come in Thursday. Shut it down. The first week or two, you probably won't see much as far as demo. It's gonna be utility work. They have, quite a few utilities on the bridge that have to be removed first. The light poles that are on there have to come off. We reuse those, so they have to be careful taking those off, and there's utilities attached under the bridge that have to come
How
off.
long is it gonna be closed again for rain?
200 days.
It's 210 calendar days is what they have.
And when it's done, it's gonna be pretty?
We're gonna hope so. All the deck comes
Like the last one
off.
evidently,
Yeah, yeah, I mean, it's, demo, the deck comes off, the sidewalk, the guardrail, everything comes off. They'll, gotta do some work to pier number 4, before they do it, and then they'll get a new deck, sidewalk, and the fencing, so. We'll hope it'll be smooth and pretty for everybody,
Pretty,
Yeah.
that's the main thing.
so.
It looks nice, yeah.
So why do you
So-
start in the winter?
Demo's winter work.
The demo.
Okay.
Why, yeah, I
All right.
mean, why
You
not?
say that's what people complain about.
That's what
Construct-
people are complaining
Construction
about.
doesn't quit in the wintertime, I mean.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, you set up your basements for winter work,
yeah.
don't you, Russ?
Right, so, and with this bridge, is there a good time to ever close it for 6 months? No.
No.
So,
I know.
That's not a two-section bridge or anything, so it takes some time.
yeah, it's
Right.
gonna be a chore, so.
All right, appreciate
Did you
it.
report on County Road M last week? Did you give us that?
Yes,
Yeah.
they did, yeah, the slabs are all set, I believe they're starting guardrail this week is what they were gonna start on that, so that should be wrapping up by the December 1st. so,
Okay,
get reopened.
Thanks.
thanks. Troy?
No, sir.
Okay. Jean walked out on us, so
She said he had nothing.
didn't have anything. John? Kelly? Okay. Charlie, let's start with you.
Tourism had a really good meeting last week. We received the demo from Placer AI, and just really tremendous data that we can glean from that. So, cost was I thought reasonable, but we're gonna look to share that cost with some other entities. So. We'll keep working on that, and we're also receiving another demo from a similar company, next month. The TCD meeting this week is their annual, or sorry, this month is their annual, I don't know what they call it.
It's a
Annual meeting.
year-end meeting?
Year-end meeting, so, lunch is provided, and everyone here is welcome to attend, so I think Lisa did send out the email for request for RSVP. I RSVP'd right to, Jordan, so anybody else wants to RSVP, go through Lisa. And, again, NACO coming up in December, it'll be a good time. Would like to see everyone there.
Okay. Ken?
Enrollment meeting's Thursday. Nothing really going on. We did have a spirited conversation about voting, abstention voting at the aging meeting. We had to ratify, we didn't have a quorum at the October meeting. So then it was time to ratify everything that we did that needed to happen from the October meeting, all the reports. And those that weren't there, when it come time for the minutes, they abstained from voting.
How can you do that?
Well, that was the thing. So I stopped, I said, hang on, guys, I said, if all of you guys abstain from voting, we still don't have enough to meet the quorum to approve what we did back in. And so we had a lengthy discussion about why you would abstain from voting. Because you weren't at the meeting doesn't mean that you have to abstain. You got a copy of the minutes. If you had a question, you didn't agree with it. Anyway, it went on for about 30 minutes. Cheryl's going to contact, what's our gal?
Pam?
Pam, to just get a clarification and send it out. But they were arguing with me about it. I said, well, you can do what you want.
Unless you have a personal conflict, you really don't have a reason.
There are specific reasons why you can abstain from voting. One of them is I know the person and I don't wanna make them mad, cause we had one here that used to do that. If it had anything to do with anybody that they knew, they would not vote, cause they were upset. Didn't wanna make them upset. So I don't know that we've ever had an issue here with it, but it went on for quite a while, and I don't think that they all agreed with it when we were done. I think they're still going to abstain if they weren't there.
Did you finally get a vote put together?
We did, finally,
Good.
I begged that we get a vote so that we could ratify what happened at the October meeting. So,
That's good.
anyway, no, other than that, there wasn't anything really great happening about any of the meetings.
Okay. I had Panhandle Public Health was one of my biggest ones. All of that, went fine. Remember that Kim Engel is, retiring here at the end of the year. And, Jessica Davies is the new director of that, and, she's coming on and seems to be, she's been there for 20 years, so she's very familiar with what's going on. You mentioned the abstaining, and we did have a little bit of the same issue at our Personnel Policy Board meeting, because we had one person absent and one new person. And so, Mr. Kelly, we might need some direction on that, especially voting on minutes when we weren't here for the meeting. Because that's the specific issue that Ken is talking about. And then the other issue is simply, when we should abstain because of a conflict of interest or possible conflict of interest. And when we, because in my opinion, the person that thinks they might have a conflict of interest should declare that. And then in my opinion, and the way we used to do it at city council was, then the other 4 members voted as to whether that person actually had a conflict of interest or not. I don't know whether you agree with that thought, but maybe you could give us some guidance on that for future meetings? Because there's been some question.
That's according to Robert's rules.
Yeah.
If you're
And-
gonna abstain, you have to get permission to abstain. I don't wanna say permission.
But-
You have to notify the remaining board members of what it was. During that meeting, Scott, I lost his last name, pulled it up on the screen on abstaining. And when you can abstain, when you can't. And it was very specific in one of the sections about abstaining on minutes that you weren't at the meeting. And the answer was, as long as you got a copy of the minutes, you had an opportunity to read through the minutes,
You could vote.
you could still vote.
That was in Robert's rules.
Well, it was in this, off of the statute and some explanations on abstentions, when you could abstain, when you shouldn't abstain. And he looked it up specifically about voting on minutes that you weren't at the meeting when the minute was, or when the.
So I'm looking at, maybe some direction on minutes like that, and or just conflict of interest, in general.
Well, we get.
And when we should abstain or declare a conflict, and then is it our decision to make? Or is it, the group's decision to make, is one of the questions. So could you give us some guidance on that?
We got into that during protests with relatives that were protesting. We don't, you know, my daughter was one that protested. Well, I don't benefit from their property, so I don't have a conflict of interest as far as monetary is concerned.
But perception sometimes
Yeah,
is
there's
bad.
no doubt.
Because I remember declaring a conflict when my son was
Yeah,
protesting.
exactly.
I think that
And
was-
so if you could give us a direction
Okay.
with some of that for future purposes, we would appreciate it.
And hopefully Pam will give us some stuff too.
Right.
Cheryl's contacted her, so we'll know.
Okay? All right, Mike?
Last week I attended the county housing board meeting. Tomorrow night I'll go to Bridgeport for the extension board meeting. The week after that I have training with emergency management meeting with winter weather spotting. It'll be at 6 o'clock at ESU 13. It's open to the public. I'm going there representing emergency management and first responder duties. Then I also attended the tourism meeting that Charlie was at and got to watch the presentation. And that was pretty eye-opening, the benefits, the tons of benefits that a lot of organizations could benefit from. I'm thinking of like economic development, tourism committee, of course, and then chamber of commerces for each town can really benefit from the information they can get off that app, just tons of everything. I mean, who attended, where they're from, where they ate, where they stayed. I mean, just tons of good information. So, that's about it.
Russ?
I had a meeting with Sarah's house last Thursday, and we're still having a time collecting that money that they're owed from Molina. Gonna have an airport board meeting this next Wednesday. And I have another meeting Thursday, I don't know what that one was, but,
Coming up,
what's that?
coming up.
Yeah, this coming up, I have a meeting Wednesday. And then I wanted to discuss another item. I talked to one of our employees and, it explained to me that we have a problem in the mapping room where the file cabinets are on the east end of the room. Whenever we have an executive session, if you stand there, you're pretty much involved in the executive session. So we need to.
Out of that office?
Yeah, and where the mapping files are on the east end, not just right where the people were, but in that where the file cabinets sit on the east wall. So we need to either soundproof that. I think in the meantime, we need to stop having meetings back there until that's either soundproof, we need a different location. If we're gonna hold an executive session, so.
So the concern would be that, we could hear the information through
It's
the
coming
walls.
through the ceiling.
Or the ceiling.
It's over the ceiling and through,
Sure.
it's wall to wall and just goes right through the ceiling.
You're not suggesting that anybody was in there listening?
No,
But
I
they
wasn't,
Not
I'm not doing
intentionally.
anything like that.
Not intentionally,
But
but
it has
someone
been.
might be able to be there.
Yeah.
So we,
So I just want you to know everything that goes on there is heard.
Over to the other side.
So-
And vice versa, and it's always muffled to me, so I guess I really.
I think you have to try, but
Yeah.
I got informed that they do hear well, so.
so maybe we
Well,
should
but the
try that sometime and see.
You're
Yeah, it
probably
wouldn't hurt to
talking
check
about
it out.
during
And then-
a bunch of noise time, and then executive session, this whole building is silent.
We might move to a different location. I've thought about the room that the sheriff has over on this side might be a place that we could maybe go for executive session meetings.
Or even
And
the
so,
Even here, if we have this closed like this,
Well, the front part of Lisa's office,
Yeah.
before you get into her office, there's an
Might be
area in
a-
there that.
yeah, but I think it still has that wall that joins, I don't know where that goes to.
I like,
why go
If
to
you're
the
coming
bathroom?
No, the bathrooms stop at her kitchen area. She has a little kitchenette right there.
Right.
So the
But
bathrooms stop there, so
Oh,
those
and
walls
then
go right over.
Could be in that other office.
Right.
Yeah,
I like the sheriff's department's room.
yeah. Be a little more secure. So,
But it wouldn't hurt to check them out before we use them as well.
right.
Well, the other concern is even outside of executive session, there's a lot of HR discussions, and
Right, that's the other
confidential
thing.
discussions that happen in there.
Just need to be careful. Yeah, 'cause you have it more during the day than what we do, and so,
I think we ought to have Jay come in at some point, you know, we can't authorize it at this point, but I think we ought to have somebody come in and look at that and see if those walls can be soundproofed up to the
up to the
ceiling.
roof,
Yeah, and then,
ceiling to the roof.
cause the walls probably just go up so high and the ceiling's tight, I don't know, but it said it's pretty plain to hear everything.
Well, we need to check into it, that's for sure.
Okay.
Good. I do have one other thing, and maybe the Thursday night meeting you're talking about. Remember the Department of Transportation is meeting in Minutair, that's Thursday night,
Okay, that's right.
the 22nd at 6 or 6:30 at Minutair Elementary.
6 o'clock, the doors
For the
open at
meeting.
5:30.
Okay, and I would tell you that Heartland Express normally meets on that Thursday, and they're gonna move their meeting basically for us to attend that instead of having a meeting. So we may have several of the Heartland Express people there at that meeting as well, to be speaking in support of the completion of that. So, anyway, but that's another big meeting coming up this week on Thursday night. Okay?
And that meeting will be at the elementary gymnasium in
Right.
Minutair.
Right. Okay? So is there anything else? Legislation is on the next item on the agenda. Charlie, anything? Anyone else?
And now on legislation, can you still have time to get me to go to the NACO? Can you sign me up for NACO, or am I too late? If you'd put me down, I
Well,
got,
I can still sign you up, but I don't know if there was a deadline, and it might be a little more.
Register there.
I thought it was
Right.
like the 22nd.
Right.
The sign up until.
yeah, if you wouldn't
I
mind.
should be able
And find him a room too. I don't think he knows how to book a hotel room.
Don't you know how to book a hotel room?
Oh,
I need one
probably,
too.
oh, I think, yeah.
But I'm not sharing with the rest.
You're not?
No.
Okay. Hearing none other, meeting adjourned. Wow, longer than I thought, but still not too bad.
December 2nd?
Just couldn't get it done in 2 hours.
no.
Daggone it.
I know it.
So close.